all of a sudden we're, let's say, in our late 40s. As a woman, maybe we're going through perimenopause, and suddenly we start to gain a little bit of belly weight, and our weight has gone up, and the doctor's saying, excuse me, your cholesterol is creeping and your blood sugars are creeping. You need to lose weight.
One thing that we need to address is the whole body positive. And we hear about it, we see it, and it's like, what we really want to look at is, what is a healthy weight for you? And it doesn't really matter as much like what size you are, but how healthy you are in your body. But we need metrics. And the metrics may mean, do we weigh ourselves? So we were going to cover, do we weigh ourselves? Why we would weigh ourselves? When we would weigh ourselves? And how we would do that. So right. let's go into this, and I guess we'll start with, what we are doing and why we would weigh ourselves to begin with.
Yeah. So if you have a health condition, for example, polycystic ovary syndrome or joint pain or heart disease, your doctor's going to say you need to lose weight if you're overweight. And sometimes that comes with a shock, because 2/3 of people in North America are overweight or obese. So even our comparison to our surrounding neighbors and friends and families, we sometimes don't even realize that we're overweight, because we're just, the weight is creeping up. Or we might not really be so concerned with weight, thinking that it even has an impact on our health condition. So all of a sudden we're, let's say, in our late 40s. As a woman, maybe we're going through perimenopause, and suddenly we start to gain a little bit of belly weight, and our weight has gone up, and the doctor's saying, excuse me, your cholesterol is creeping and your blood sugars are creeping. You need to lose weight. And then we're confused, because we're thinking, wait a minute, that's not very nice. Like, is he fat shaming me? Like, my weight is the problem, and I eat healthy and I exercise, or perhaps I'm very, active through the day. So what is this, right? And yeah, it is important, in my opinion, to use the metric, not because of fat shaming or anything to do with a negative connotation with weight itself, because weight itself is beautiful. Let's be honest. Curves are gorgeous. Mm-hmm. So the concern is that there is an inflammatory component to being heavier. And when you have excess belly weight, we call it the visceral adipose tissue, or the VAT organ, and it produces significant amounts of inflammation, which can cause the arteries to inflame. So forget cholesterol. It's more like, why is it concerning if your cholesterol is high and you're overweight? If you have excess weight and excess belly weight and inflammation in your arteries, then the body's smart. It'll use that cholesterol to band-aid up the inflammation. And that's when it becomes a problem. So high cholesterol itself is not an issue as much as the inflammation that makes the body deal with that, and plaque up your arteries. So I think it's really important to do the weigh-ins, because then you're able to use that as a tool to make sure that the lifestyle changes perhaps you start to implement are working, and make sure that you carry a certain body mass index that's relatively healthy. So body mass index is more than just weight on the scale. Body mass index is, what is your weight on your frame? And we don't need you to have some perfect number. Doesn't even have
There's
to
no
be
such thing.
Necessarily.
There's no such thing as a perfect number.
Right. So like they say a healthy is between 20 to 25, but for your
BMI.
Body mass index, BMI, healthy, what I say, is between 20 and 25. And anything higher than 25 would be considered overweight. But what if you have a different body type, right? There's the ectomorph and mesomorph and endomorph. So you might never get into a healthy body mass index range. What's more important is that if you've been told that you have a health condition and that you do need to lose weight, that you use the scale as a metric to support yourself as you're dropping weight, to show that it's working, whatever you're doing is working. And then you use the body mass index as a reference point to kind of say, okay, I need to, perhaps your doctor says you need to lose 10% of your body weight and maybe 3 indexes down, and then you work towards that. So it's really helpful to know when to weigh yourself, because if you're still a menstruating woman, you might find that throughout the menstrual cycle, your weight is changing. Have you ever noticed that? Have you
Absolutely.
weighed yourself regularly enough to see?
Well, I'm post-menstrual now, but that's besides the point. But absolutely, when I was
yes, I always forget.
Because I look like I'm 30.
You
that's
do.
Okay. So absolutely, during the premenstrual time, I would gain more weight because I would have more water retention. And when you're talking about the importance of going back to weighing yourself, I am weary about people walking away thinking, oh, that means I need to weigh myself all the time. And I love that you actually specified to say, I weigh myself once a week, because they're different personalities. And if you know yourself to be obsessive, it might not be the best thing, but it's really, really important to get that baseline. So, instead of weighing yourself every week, like some people, like I used to do this when I was young. It's like I would weigh myself every day, like maybe twice a day. And that's obsessive. It's not healthy. So we need to know.
Help.
No, right? And then the second thinking is like, so we need to know what works for each individual. And so for me, I still don't really weigh myself very much, but like maybe junctures of time. So not even weekly, it would be maybe once every couple of months. But if you're literally in a position of, I need to lose weight, then it is a great, what we just talked about, metric. And I also recognize that there may be frustration because, even if you Google search, and I just did that before we came on the show, and it's like, what if I'm doing everything and I still am like not able to make my weight shift, right? So it can be frustrating. So, what can we do around that? It may be beyond the topic what we're talking about today, which is literally strictly about weighing oneself to begin with. But I think the bottom line is it's individual, but we do think that it's really important to get that baseline and then just go back and checking, are we on the right track? Are we progressing? And if we're not progressing, what can we shift?
Yeah, so we are going to do a whole episode on that next. Let's do one specifically on tips on how. Let's cover briefly when to weigh yourself, how often. So you're saying weekly. So let's say you put yourself on a weight loss journey. It's helpful to set a goal. And it's also helpful to understand that anyone who markets lose 20 pounds this month, and if you're somebody who's trying to lose 20 pounds total, losing 20 pounds in a month, you're going to be eating nothing and working out every day. And you're going to lose 20 pounds in a month, but are you going to do that in a safe way? Absolutely not. So the math and science don't really work to drop 20 pounds in a month unless you're grossly overweight, like you're in the obese category and you're eating sufficiently more calories, and then you have that ability, you have the weight to lose. But if you're someone who's marginally overweight and you're trying to lose weight for a health condition, then set a healthy goal of a pound, half a pound to up to 2 pounds a week. That's a safe amount of weight loss. Anything more than that, it's not, that the science doesn't make sense. And I think people get upset with themselves because they set themselves up for failure, not recognizing that that's not healthy.
It's not healthy, and it's also not sustainable, because the approach that you would take is pretty extreme, and you can't live like that forever. It can help and work in the short term, but it's definitely, don't we both see patients that are even more sick after they've done these extreme dieting?
Yeah, you lose weight, you lose hair, you're getting sick all the time, and then you gain the weight back, right? Because a lot of it's water weight, you're losing muscle instead of fat, and that's not ideal. You want to maintain your muscle mass, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, how to do that. So the other thing is, when should we weigh ourselves in terms of time of day? Really, you could weigh yourself at any time, but keep it consistent. My recommendation is to do it first thing in the morning, in your birthday suit, because then you don't have clothes impacting the weight. And if you're trying to, really focus on weight loss for a certain period of time, it helps to weigh yourself on a Friday morning at the end of the hard work week and being consistent in your routine. with nutrition and everything else that's leading to that weight loss. And then maybe on a Monday morning, if you feel like perhaps you indulged a bit on the weekend, so that you know where you're standing for the beginning of the week. And if you can maintain your week at the your weight at the end of a weekend, then you are doing amazing. And I always find it funny when patients who are trying to drop weight, and I'll see them 2 weeks later and they've dropped 2 pounds and I'm celebrating and they're like, I only lost 2 pounds. Why are you so excited? I'm like, because you're doing all the things. You're following the lifestyle changes and you're implementing these habits that are impacting your energy in a healthy way. And that's exactly how much weight I expected. And then 20 weeks later, when they've dropped 20 pounds, they're like, oh, now I see what you're talking about, like in the beginning, right? Because they've dropped 20 pounds and their energy healthy and they're sleeping better and they're feeling better in their mindset and their bodies, they're fitting into their clothes they want to fit into, and then they're able to maintain their weight, because it's not just about dropping weight, it's also about maintaining a healthy weight. Does that make sense?
That makes that's the most important piece, right? It's about the maintenance after that, because again, there's so many fad diets out there and people will do it and it's like, yes, I lost the weight, and then within a month or two it's all back.
Right.
So it's about doing it slow, consistent, just as, what's his name? Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of that book. Atomic Habits. It's like,
yes.
the little minute, minuscule habits that you utilize and incorporate into your life over time. That's what's going to get you that lasting result. And that's going to be the process of that transformation that you're wanting to have. And that's not overnight. And,
right.
Don't, like, our instantaneous gratification society has us be that we expect our ability to be able to drop weight like that. And that's just not realistic.
Another thing to consider is, what was your weight when you were around 18 to 21? And if you're within 10 or 20 pounds from that weight, you're probably doing really well. And when I was in my university years, I gained about 35 pounds, not really understanding why. I had have polycystic ovary syndrome. And so I still weigh myself because I have that memory. And I also recognize that being in my mid 40s, that I could gain that weight because of insulin resistance. So I use it as kind of a good for you, Tanya. You're doing the lifestyle changes that you promote people to do, and you're maintaining your weight. Like, maintenance is just as important as weight loss. So I don't weigh myself twice a week. I'll weigh myself maybe twice a month. I do sometimes weigh myself the week before my period, going, okay, yeah, that's normal. Recognizing that I'm just before my period, and I'm going to put a couple extra pounds on. And I do it to see how many pounds I've gained. More than 4, I'm like, maybe you should cut back the sugars, Tanya, or the salt, because of the water retention. That's okay. You're going to drop it anyway. No issues. Like, I have that little self-talk. I also like to do it because I get to explain this to patients, that, it's normal to fluctuate within your menstrual cycle. So if somebody's trying to drop weight, they can have an ovulation weight, so mid-cycle weigh-in, and the before the period weigh-in, and then always use that as their baseline. So if you weigh yourself once a week for 4 weeks, if you're a menstruating woman, and then record those numbers so that you don't get thrown off if you do put on the weight and get mad at yourself, because that's not helpful. You don't want to throw in the towel. A lot of people are like, forget it. I've gained weight. I've gained all the weight back. In the beginning, it's especially important, right? Because if you drop 2 pounds and then you gain 4, and then you weigh yourself at the end of the menstrual cycle, and all of a sudden you're 6 pounds down, you're like, what? I'm confused.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Water retention.
I think it's really great, and well, more than great, it's so important to understand what is happening. So you're just hitting the nail on the head in terms of, like, it is normal to fluctuate. That's one. And two, it's like you keep weighing yourself and documenting the progress over time, not just in this tiny juncture of time, because that's not going to give you a full rounded perspective of what's happening in your body. And so really there's a hormonal component as well. And, I also think that in what you're saying, it's like you're allowing the weighing yourself in to be your guide and inspiration to keep you going on this health regimen. So that works for you. And we don't know if it'll work for everyone, but you can certainly try it out and see what works best for you. And like I said, for myself, I did in my 20s, I also gained weight. And that's, because I ate chocolate chip cookies every single day because in university, right? So, and then just learning and being obsessed about how to eat healthy in my 20s. And I changed, but the scale almost became an enemy because I was too obsessed. So for me, what works better is like, I need to know the starting point, where am I at? And then maybe weigh myself in like much later, like, 3 months down the road and note how my pants feel.
Right. And that's perfect too, because you can measure your waist circumference and get a baseline for that. And then as a doctor, we know that what each inch is equal to. So if you want to get the baseline weight and then not do the weigh-in again and get the baseline waist circumference, and then just share that with your doctor. What is your waist circumference? And then how are you fitting into your clothes? Because maybe you have a goal to fit in a certain dress, and that's exciting and fun too. Or maybe you want to do a fun photo shoot in lingerie, boudoir photo shoot at the end in February for your partner or for yourself. And no matter what your size is, you're doing things for yourself, right? Yeah. You want to feel hot and sexy and regardless of the number, it's more, am I taking care of myself and doing things that are going to help my brain stay healthy, my body physically stay healthy, and shape is wonderful. You don't have to be the, runway model. In fact, runway models are often, unfortunately, on the underweight side. They even expanded the body mass index scale to be healthy for women, to include the ectomorph, tall, extra slim models. So it's 18 to 25, not 20 to 25. And the problem with overweighing or weighing yourself too often and obsessing with weight is it could go the other direction. You might over exercise or under eat and then lose your period if you're a menstruating woman. Or you might be somebody who's postmenopausal and then your weight is under 130 pounds and you're becoming too slim and you're impacting your bone density in a negative way. So
that's the next podcast. We should talk about that in the next podcast. But I really, it is so important that we say it. So the bottom line is, yes, weigh yourself and know who you are. And I would add in, it's like not just checking in on the weight, but how do you feel in your body? Do you feel less bloated inside? Like, sometimes you eat and you can feel distended and uncomfortable and bloated and have a tummy ache or heartburn. Like, these are all body signs. And are we listening? And if you're not, it's time to start paying attention, because we guarantee you that when you pay more attention to those kinds of things, that may also help you discern what foods work for you, what foods don't work for you, how much exercise to do, because as you mentioned, some people over exercise as they're motivated to lose weight, and then they can hurt themselves. So that's not so good. But, there's also people that don't move enough and have great excuses. So however it is, it's the bottom line is weigh yourself, know who you are, feel good in your body in what you're doing. And, I'm going to add in, consult people that are health professionals that can help guide you, because you don't need to go at it alone.
Right. Even if you know all the details on how to lose weight and you know that it's not just about calories in versus calories out, it's really helpful to have somebody in your corner coaching you and cheering you on as you're dropping weight. That in and of itself is a nice joy hit, a nice dopamine hit. We feel good when somebody else is saying, excellent, you did it, right? And now let's set a new goal. And that could be a weight loss goal, or it could be layering in a habit that we're going to talk in our next episode about. And then you're feeling so excited you've added that habit. And that's a dopamine hit and a joy hit. And that will contribute to, less binging and less cravings, because you're happy on your journey.
Thank you.